Amanda here. Thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm going to be constructing the interactive elements in my Country Gingham journal. I'm going to do it with you step by step. I'm going to give you the measurements in A4, which is the size I work in, and I'm going to tell you how to resize it very, very easily, but you just need to pay attention for US letter size users or anybody else that uses letter size. So why do I add these to my journals? Well, this one is going to be quite simple. And if you watch the full process and you try it, you're going to fall in love with it. And at the end, I'm going to show you the back, which I've finished, matted and decorated. Okay, so why do I do this? Well, I call a lot of my journals a hybrid journal. This one I'm not calling it a hybrid because it's a very gentle one. Okay, it's a very simplified one. I've done much more in-depth ones, and they add fantastic interest to your journals. Okay, it gives it a wow factor as soon as you open it because it's on the front on the cover, and you're extending the use of your journal into more memory keeping as well as a journal. So for example, I'll quickly show you this one that I did at Christmas, and this was quite an in-depth one. So we've got a pocket there, and then we've got lots of interactive flip elements. Okay, pocket there, pockets here, this flips out, we've got pockets there, we've got a pocket here, we've got waterfall elements. So I've done some very in-depth ones, and then it's got a pocket on the side for, you know, it's very much like a mini album kind of a thing. Then when you turn it over, we've got more elements going on here. Okay, and this pulls out and this pulls open, and it's awesome. But I thought we'd do a gentler version today. But I love putting interaction into my journals. I like to keep my pages quite basic. The reason being, I like my journals to have a use. Here we did this acetate pocket as well in the back. I like them to be written in. And so I don't over decorate my pages. I keep them quite simple. So to counteract the simplicity of my pages, I like to add the wow factors elsewhere. Okay, now we're going to have plenty of room. If you follow my tutorial, I've done the spacing of the spine and the spacing between the gusset and the start of the signatures. I've given plenty of room so that there's room for the journal with the interactive elements. So you're still not going to get a gator mouth. Okay, right. So this is where you need to listen carefully if you're a letter size user. So we're going to, first of all, create a very simple pocket. Okay, now don't cut this and then stick it in immediately. Make sure you watch all of the tutorial. So if you're an A4 size user, you're going to cut this to 6 7/8 of an inch by 5 inches. Then you're going to score on the 2 short sides and 1 long side at 1/2 inch. Fold them, burnish them, cut across where the score lines intersect at an angle. When you fold them over, make sure they don't overlap. Okay, if they overlap, go trim a little bit more off, but don't go over those score lines. Okay, if you're not an A4 user or your journal's a different size to mine, this is how to size this for this project. You want to measure from the outer edge, the left outer edge of your chipboard, not the gusset, not the spine, just the chipboard. You want to measure it. For example, mine is 6 inches. Okay, you then get a piece of paper and a pencil. You then add 1 inch to that measurement, taking you up to 7 inches. That is 1/2 inch each side for your flaps. Before you score anything, okay, so if you've got 7 inches, you need to put it back in your trimmer on that long side and take off 1/8 of an inch. Okay, that's just an easier way than me giving you 1/8 of an inch measurements for everything. Okay, why are we doing that? Because we want this pocket to sit centrally in here and have a small gap either side to house our other elements, and house them with just a little hair width of room so that they don't crash with the gusset and the spine when you're folding the book shut. Otherwise it can become stiff. Okay, So that's how we're doing that. Set it to one side. So let me do the left side. Your left side flap. So this needs to measure A4 letter size. It's the same. 6 1/8 by 5 inches. You're putting it in your scoreboard along the 6 1/8 of an inch side, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. That is going to give you that small 1/8 of an inch score. You need to carefully find those score marks and burnish them. Okay, let me just see where did I just need to measure how far down I glued the other one. About an inch. Okay, then you want to just very carefully, you want to measure from the top down about an inch. Okay, this is for glue, for your placement. So just make a gentle mark at about 1 inch. Okay, and then you get your left flap here. You're going to put glue on the back of the flap, not on the gusset, just on the flap. No need to mitre this because it's going to get covered over. You're not going to see it. Okay. All right. Plenty on, but again, you don't want it splodging. All right. And then with the gusset folded flat so that 1/8 of an inch is facing you. Okay. You want to add it. Where are we adding this one? Yeah. Just right to the edge of the cover and then up to your little pencil mark. Okay. So I'm lifting that up and I want it right up to the edge of my cover. That's going to help me get it straight. Okay, and it's also going to give me plenty of room to put my paper layer in when I come to mat the back. Okay. So I'm just going to give that time to dry. And then we're going to get the right side one. Again, same sizing, whether you are letter size or A4. And this measures 6 1/4 by 5. And we're going to score at 1/2 inch along the 6 1/4. You're scoring at 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. That gives you a 1/2 inch fold gluing flap and a 1/4 inch gusset. So that one's got a 1/8 inch gusset and this one's got a 1/4 inch gusset. That's because they're going to layer on top of each other. We're going to have a pocket inside. There's going to be things on that pocket. You need room. Okay. So now what you want to do is you want to glue the back side of that flap. And you want to line this up, okay, with, disengage that gusset so it's facing you. Line it up with the bottom of your journal, flush with the bottom, and you want it in away from the gusset about 1/8 of an inch. Don't have it right up against the edge of that chipboard because otherwise when it's open it's going to crash into the spine when the book is closed, and you don't want that. You want a little bit of a gap. Okay, so that's why we've cut that pocket 1/8 of an inch shorter to allow for that. Okay, so let me just make sure that that's straight, and I can use the bottom of my cover to make sure it's straight, making sure I've got that 1/8 of an inch roughly. Okay, doesn't matter if it's not precise. And then and I use glue for this, before that dries, okay, quickly get your pocket and you want to get your glue on the flaps, on the back of the flaps. And you want to do this as fast as you can before the glue dries on the flap here, in case you need to make any adjustments. This pocket here wants to be flush with the bottom, okay? Flush with the bottom and central between there, okay? So centralise it. Oops, it's not flush with the bottom. This is why glue's your friend. Move it over a little bit. So you probably want this just a little bit of a hair width more towards the left, but flush with the bottom, okay? And then press. Make sure that this stays away from the very edge of that chipboard. Remember to leave about that 1/8 of an inch that you trimmed off your pocket, to leave that spacing there. I mean, it's not a terrible thing if you get this too far over there. It'll just make your cover stiff if you don't get it in the right position. It's no biggie, okay? It's not really a massive deal if you don't get it precise. Then give that chance all to dry, because you've got a couple of layers there of cardstock with glue. And I do prefer glue to tape, because unless you get very expensive tape, it will come undone. It absolutely will. The only tape that I ever recommend is the Scorpal tape, and it's in the UK, it's like £8 a roll, which is expensive for journal making. I don't mind it for mini albums and folios, but for journal making, I think that's a bit pricey. So I'm going with the glue, okay? Glue's better, it gives you wiggle room time. So I'm just double checking as well. So this is going to go that way. The smaller gusset goes there, and that goes there. And then when you close your journal, that is not crashing directly on your spine, because you've got that bit of a gap. I'm over explaining it, but it's super important. Okay, let me just make sure that that's all glued, and I'm re-engaging those gussets. I'm re-engaging that one. So with the gussets engaged, and engaged means they're at a, you know, a proper angle. I can't think what angle. Right angle. You know, so they're not like flat like that or going back like that. Properly engaged. Am I showing you? Am I even in shot? Yeah. Properly engaged so that they're like that. Okay. This is, now we're going to add magnets. Who doesn't love magnets? They're clicker, they're fun, and it's going to stop all of these flapping about. Okay. So I'm using, this is my Scorpal tape. All right. Do we need to add that yet? Hold on a minute. Let me think. No, we need to put our pockets on. don't put them on yet. So now you need 2 pockets, because we're going to put pockets on here. So they both measure the same. These are 6.5 by 5 inches. And you're scoring on 2 short sides and 1 long side at 1/2 inch. Okay. So I'm going to show you here the importance of burnishing. Super important to burnish the absolute last breath out of these, because it will go down easier when you come to glue it. Okay, so we're burnishing, then you can see those cross lines. Okay, and you're cutting right across the middle of that. Okay, right across the middle at an angle. Make sure that when they're folded, they're not overlapping. Otherwise, you're going to get bulk. That one's overlapping. So I need to go and cut some more off. But I'm only cutting up to the point. I'm not going back over that point. Otherwise, I might nick it and then it won't be nice and pointy and flush. Yeah? So let's do the other one the same. So this is very, very basic. Because I've had quite a lot of new followers coming for the collections over on my Ko-fi that maybe haven't seen some of the other videos and what I like to do with my journals. So every now and again, I'll do them quite basic for the new people. And then, you know, once that they think that it's going to be easy, bam, I'll hit them with a more complicated one. But if you can do this and you can follow how I'm telling you to size things, because I always tell you how to size them, okay? I always tell you, then you can come up with your own as well. Yeah, and I encourage you to do that, okay? Right, so those, you see how nice and burnished they are? Nice and crisply burnished. Super important. So now we're going to stick one to there, okay? And one to here with that closed, right? Okay. Glue on. This is so quick and easy, and I've already done the back part, so I'm going to show you that in a minute. Patience is a virtue. Don't be cheating and fast forwarding to have a look, okay? You can wait. Don't be cheating. I know some of you will be. Right, so let me just get that glue off my hands so I don't dirty this white cardstock. I don't like working with white cardstock. I really don't. I'm too much of a messy crafter. We'll be back to black next time. Right, so this needs to go on here, okay? Flush with the bottom, flush with the edge of there, okay? As flush as you can get it, okay? If it's hanging over there a tiny, tiny bit, it doesn't matter, don't worry. In fact, you could more or less centralise it if it's hanging over a little bit, but I really don't worry about it, okay? And then you want to get that down, okay, and burnish it. Then what you want to do is give it a moment to get tacky, but not fully dry, because what you want to do is you want to just squeeze it gently and make sure you've not glued that pocket shut, okay? Okay, so then we're going to close this one and we're going to put the other pocket on. Hopefully, I can't see if I'm in shot. And we're going to add this one, and then I'm going to show you where to put the magnets, okay? I get my magnets from eBay, and the seller is called Spider Magnets. They are brilliantly strong and nice and thin, okay? I've bought them before from other places, you know, China and places like that, and they're just pants. So, you know, it's like cheap tape. It's not, it's worth paying that little bit extra for some things. Magnets, glue and tape and scissors, decent scissors. I know some people just buy the scissors from like Dunelm or wherever, and those are kitchen scissors, they're not crafting scissors. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? Invest in good scissors, keep them, hide them from your family, threaten them within an inch of the life if they dare to touch them, and you will always get nice, crisp, clean cuts. If you use kitchen scissors, the blades are fatter, okay? And a fat blade, you might think I'm mental, but fat bladed scissors, when you're cutting, can make the difference of a 1/16 of an inch in your measurements. You've been warned. You use kitchen scissors. If everybody in comments going, well, I use them and they're great. Well, that's up to you. I told ya. I'm only teasing. You use what you want. I'm just giving my advice. I'm teasing you. If you want to use kitchen scissors, use them. If you want to use a hedge cutter that you cut the trees in the garden with, you go for it. Magnets, right. Now, be careful if you've got really good magnets that are very strong, because if you let go of that and it bashes on there, they will break, okay? Whilst magnets are strong, they are also, at the same time, delicate. If you drop them on the floor, they'll break. Make sure you keep them away from children and pets, because if you swallow a magnet, it's very dangerous. Okay. So, where's my tape? So, we're going to put... this is going to magnetise onto there. So you want to assess where you want your magnet. So let me give you some advice. Never put a magnet very close to the edge of something, because if you put your magnet there, then whatever you're gluing over, you're going to have a gap where the magnet is. So you always want your magnet as central as you can get away with. Okay? Yeah? So have a look where your pockets are. Okay? So this pocket goes right down to here and right out here, and this one starts here and ends here. So I could have it right there, okay? And then that way, when I map my paper, I've got a lovely space all the way around so that paper is gluing nicely over that magnet, okay? So I'm just going to hold my finger and I want my magnet about there. But let me just make sure that that's not going to mean I'm too close to the edge on the other one. No, that's fine. About there. I'm just going to go for about there. Just think about it carefully. You don't want the magnet on this one to be too close to this edge either. So about there, I'm having it. I'm going to get my tape. Doesn't need to be ultra precise at this point. It's this magnet that needs to be ultra precise so that it matches up. Okay, I want it about there. So I'm going to use my tape and I'm going to put it about there. If you're using tape, make sure your tape doesn't protrude because you're going to mat your paper, but you're going to mat your paper with 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. So, you know, you don't want this tape either to be too close to the edge, otherwise it will show. You don't want that. So you've got to think about all of these things, which is why when you watch tutorials on YouTube, this is the kind of tiny detail that you can learn so that you don't make those mistakes, because we've already made them. We've already done it. Okay, then you get your second magnet, you put it very carefully on the top. And that is to make sure you've got the right polarisation. That's a fancy word for me. The right polarisation. And then what I do is I will put a blob of glue on there. It's not going to glue the magnet. It's going to give me a gluey mark on here so I can see where my magnet goes. I'm making sure that that gusset is engaged, i.e. that it's at that right angle, okay, and not skew with, okay, and I'm going to make sure that that one's engaged as well, okay. So I'm looking from the bottom, I'm making sure it's lined up, and then I'm going to press, and that's going to leave a gluey imprint there. So then I'll lift that magnet off, okay, I've lifted it off, I've got to turn it around, put it where the gluey mark is, okay. The glue should be just enough to just hold it in place, but don't just glue just the magnet. Use tape as well, okay? And then I'm going to add my tape that way. Okie doke. And I like score around the magnet with my thumbnail. Not that I've got many. Not that I've got any nails. I've got pig trotters for hands. I don't know how ladies have lovely manicured hands when they're crafters. I can't do it. I can't do it. So then that's magnetised. Okay? Lovely. Magnetised. And then you layer your paper over the top. When you're layering your paper, you remove this tape. Glue your paper around the edge. Don't glue all around there and all around the magnet, and then mould your magnet into your paper or it'll show and it looks ugly. Put your glue there, avoiding the magnet, and then when you press your paper down, just press it down there, okay? Put a little bit of glue there, but don't think that you need to add loads of extra glue there. The tape will be enough, okay? And that doesn't matter what kind of tape you use. Do as I say, not as I do. Right, so, and you might think, well, wow, big deal, what's that? Well, let me show you what it looks like when it's matted and decorated. So what you're going to do is you're going to do exactly the same thing, but on the back, but you're going to put the pockets the other way around, okay? So the one with I'll show you. So here's mine finished, okay? So here I've got my 1/4 inch gusset pocket next to the spine, my 1/8 of an inch gusset next to there. So you're going to be mirror imaging, okay? You're going to be mirror imaging, and look how beautiful, okay? So that lifts up, that lifts up. So here's your lovely pocket. Look how beautiful it looks when it's decorated. And in there, we've got 2 very large mats, okay? I've added one of my handmade embellishments to this one, and I've not glued it all the way down so that you can tuck things under if you want. And then this is a large one. All you need to do is measure your space, measure your height, cut some cardstock, cover it with paper, okay? I'm not giving you the measurements for that because you can do what you want. This one could be a writing board, okay? If you feel like you need something under your paper when you're writing, it could be a writing board. And I've added one of the mirror image embellishments and glued it on the top, okay? So that one goes in there like so. And then this one goes in here. And then we can just lift that little embellishment up and it will layer over the top of that pocket, adding lovely layers. So these pockets here that we've done, Okay, they go like so. So in each pocket, I have matted with leftovers because I've made the top of the pocket higher than the pocket. So if you're thinking, well, my pocket's not the same size, it's not meant to be, because you want to get in it. Okay. So then I've measured my pocket, and I've cut a piece of cardstock that's 1/4 of an inch smaller. Matted it on just one side, added a mirror image embellishment, glued it on. Super simple, and that slides in there. I've just added a little bit of rickrack there. I don't like adding loads of laces and trims to my journals, because I think then if you haven't got the same things that I've got, then you're going to think your journal's not going to look as good. So I tend to concentrate just on the papers. So if you're wondering why I don't use loads of lace and trims, that's why. I don't use die cuts or stickers or things that I just use the papers, because if you download the collection, you've got exactly the same things that I've got and you can get the same results. Okay, you can completely and utterly copy my layout. This is just layered from cut down paper. And then on the back here, I've added one of the fussy cuts. I cut it, printed it on lightweight cardstock, and I've just glued it on 2 sides. This is a little journaling card, okay? And that slips in there. And then when it's closed, you can see the top of the journaling card. So it's adding layers of interest, okay? So although it's a very simple design, you've got lots of interest here, beautiful. And these embellishments also act as like a tab to pull them out, okay? And I've used leftovers. Doesn't matter if you've not got a full image on there. This is a partial image. Doesn't matter, we're using them up, okay? And that slides in there beautifully, okay? Then when you open it, I've used the little chicken coop fussy cut. And again, journaling card. This is one of the full journal pages. You print them 2 to a page. Cut them out, fold them in half, round the corners. You've got yourself a little journaling card. You could stick a photo there if you wanted, okay? And that is that. So very, very simple, but very, very pretty interactive elements to our journal. And that is going to be fabulous. So now I need to go away and decorate this and finish the inside of my journal. I've shown you how to do some of the elements already. So I will be back. My next video will be a final reveal. I will have decorated the cover. I'm not doing any pockets on the cover. I will just be matting using the papers in the collection, and it's going to look superb. So I will see you in the next video. Go away, give that a try. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes simple ideas are the best. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.